For years, we've been drowning in Isekai, and by mid-2024, Isekai Suicide Squad, which I think was a fine but forgettable show, but it became more of a tipping point, an apex, the jump the shark moment. It proved just how the genre genuinely leans onto the same three tropes. You die, you get summoned, or it's just a game. Now, there is a fourth twist, but I'll save that for later. However, all hope is not lost. I've observed several unique shows that tackle these tropes in new and refreshing ways. Death. Death is perhaps the most iconic trope within the Isekai genre, as it's the one-way route. Truck-kun will take you out. You died, and for some reason or another, you've been reborn into another world. Dr. Elise, the royal lady with the lamp, takes this concept, but twists it. Double death is the premise and unique quirk here. Elise sure is a lucky girl, initially having a short but highly privileged and luxurious life, where she was rude, harsh towards any and everyone, and was very much the villainess. Elise's selfishness and obsession for her love and fiancé the prince led to the deaths of her family and eventually herself. She was reborn as Aoi Takamoto, into a world similar to our own, but was orphaned from birth. In this life, she gained a new perspective on life and studied hard to help people and become a renowned genius surgeon. But on an international flight, there was a plane crash. While she was hurt badly, rather than focusing on herself, to the very end of this life, she worked tirelessly to save any and everyone that was still alive on that flight with her medical knowledge before she died once again. Elise wakes up in her original body, right before the official engagement to the prince, with a renewed look on life and outlook. Rather than wedding the prince, she believes she has the knowledge to save countless lives and elevate medicine within this world. As such, she strikes up a deal with the emperor. She has 6 months to prove her true calling is not on the throne. A unique premise. Episode 1 takes place almost exclusively within Aoi's body, seeing flashbacks and giving a lot of context as to why and who she is. It does go with the show sort of telling rather than actually really feeling and learning everything naturally. But she is that textbook example of a character performing a paradigm shift, blaming herself and becoming the best person she could. It uses a lot of tropes from the villainess playbook to have her come back as the opposite, which is part of the plot, with everyone around her being so shocked at the sudden change in personality. The double death would also be very interesting to see someone go the other way, becoming the hero and then taking that experience back with them and adjusting to a relatively normal life. Perhaps a cyberpunk future, where then dying and then going back to a past clone of oneself with the memories of the future. You might have not remembered the lottery numbers, but you do know of a futuristic world. Think of Fry from Futurama, but then he was forced back to the year 2000. I just feel like there's something here. The only other titles that loosely do the same sort of thing was ReZero, Redo the Healer, and a light novel / manga, The Death Mage Who Doesn't Want to Come Back a Fourth Time. But none of these have the same premise. I believe my ideas also only scratch the surface. There's so much more we could see here, but that's just one way that isekais are made. Teleportation, portal, summoning. Covering a wide range of shows and scenarios, something the main character can come and go, sometimes it's a one-way street. Regardless, it's about them being transported to another world, but you've kept your same body. However, in this other world, you're not the same as you were in your original world. So for my pick for this one, it's campfire cooking in another world with my absurd skill. You're not the hero, nor does he want to be a hero. He's just a man that wants to live his life. Mukoda is accidentally summoned as a hero to a kingdom in another world to help defeat against their enemies. Mukoda talked his way out of the situation due to his non-combative skill, online supermarket, which they deem useless. His power proves to be anything but useless. With this ability, Mukoda can cheaply purchase almost anything. It's basically Amazon at his fingertips. But the show mostly focuses on food products, most of which are considered luxuries in this world. As Mukoda cooks using his ability, catches the eye of a fearsome mythical wolf fell. The legendary beast swiftly negotiates a contract to become Mukoda's familiar, in part due to being unable to resist the delicious dishes. With Fell by his side, Mukoda travels the world, earning his keep as an adventurer and merchant, while also enjoying delectable meals. This summary only very slightly scratches the surface. Mukoda is very wary of those that he meets due to learning more about the world he's been summoned to, and the politics around heroes are divisive, let alone having Fell by his side does draw attention to him, as his new protector dog won't let him come to any harm. He is also the best of boys, rarely staying in one location for very long. He doesn't ever have to worry for food, in part due to having a killing machine at his side. With the power of buying low and selling high with his hero ability, he's able to move on swiftly. Campfire cooking peels away from the "you are the hero" and simply says, hey, you've not got a lot to worry about. Let's just lay low as best as you can and just live the best possible life. Along his journey, he also does tame a slime called Sue, who proves to be just as useful as Fell. Not only do I adore this show, but it's trying to keep the concept of the hero and throws it out right away, saying, hey, how would your average person realistically react? More so, when it's not a great spot to be put into. You're not the hero, but you've got the skill that's buying food and products from Amazon, while not explicitly unique, focusing on food as to not only bring a lot of attention, but it also emphasizes the fact that the show is in part about the food and the dishes that the lead creates. It does so much right with this area. I don't want to say too much more, but it is also one of my favorite shows of these past few years. Just go watch it. It's a 10 out of 10. It's sweet. It's caring. It's got a lot of layers. And it's surprisingly deep for something with a title like this. But that takes us to our third and, well, technically final, but not final topic. It's a game. Gaming and isekais have been connected to one another for arguably as long as I've been a fan of anime, which is a longer time than I would like to admit. But imagine a story where you didn't have to directly go into the game world to interact with it, and to have a huge impression on the story. Well, the concept of that show is Endo and Kobayashi Live, the latest on a tsundere villainess, Lizolette. The premise of the show is as followed. Broadcasting club member Kobayashi always gushes to her friend Endo about Magical, an otome game where the protagonist attends the Royal Academy of Magic. The one character Kobayashi is most obsessed with is the villainess Lizolette. Contrary to her rude remarks towards the main, Lizolette longs to be her friend. Lizolette is also deeply in love with her own fiancé, who is also the prince and the game's main love interest. Unfortunately, in almost every route, Lizolette is doomed to a tragic end. Kobayashi manages to convince Endo to play Magikoi, to practice his commentary skills. What begins as a normal playthrough turns extraordinary into the prince suddenly hearing the player's voices inside the game. Now labeled as God, Endo and Kobayashi use their comments and analysis to save their beloved tsundere villainess from her fate demise. What I love is that the plot focuses on the core idea of connecting the two worlds rather than directly traveling into the game world via a headset or being stuck in the game for one reason or another. That they are treated as two separate worlds. Instead, that has a strong connection with them, the main leads, being God. What if a game that would only move forward if you played it, but it also allows there to be several love stories? The game itself, mostly,
foreshadowing as a narrative device,
would only move forward if you played it, but it also allowed there to be several love stories happening, both at the otome game, but also in the real world between Kobayashi and Endo. We're able to have the face value game history depth of the story, but also the real history of our leads and in the real world, and what led them to joining the broadcast club. It's far from a perfect show, but it grew on me a lot and has stuck with me as a unique concept with a very strong execution of what it set out to do. It's not breaking any ground in the fantasy villainess world, nor is it doing much in the school romance genre. But it's got something unique that I can't help but feel I want to see more of. The idea of playing a game as a whole isekai is personally very shallow, whereas gaming as a medium is arguably one of the deepest types of media. I'm sure we'll see future animes and mangas where characters are waking up to survive the night in a different game each time. How about having a game character being a pseudo AI in a person's glasses and then giving them life advice that carries over into the game itself? Are these bad ideas? Possibly. But putting on a headset and being the main "I'm in an isekai" is frankly very played out, and I want to see something more. So what's the final type of isekai? Well, I'm glad you asked, viewer. The reverse isekai, or the passage of time isekai. This isn't something that's used a lot, and I will use this to sort of cover the idea of the reverse isekai, which for this, titles like Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Mage, Restaurant to Another World, or this winter's 2025 show, Welcome to Japan, Missed Elf, all of which are worth watching in my opinion for their own interpretations on something different within the isekai genre. But my pick for this is Demon Lord 2099. What happens when the Demon Lord of the world is vanquished by the hero and his kingdom falls into war with a void of power? Zoom on 500 years, he is brought back to life, as genuinely killing the immortal Demon Lord is more complicated than it seems. But his kingdom is no more. Velito, or as he says, learns that the other immortals were hunted near to extinction, and the world that he once knew is long gone. Mortals are now able to use magic due to technological advances with the creation of a familiar. His magical ability isn't what it used to be due to his influence being a shell of what it once was. Makina, his most loyal follower, along with the assistance of Takahashi, look to unravel why Marcus betrayed and what's really going on with this world that he's found himself in. Demon Lord 2099 asks the question, is the bad guy actually as bad as he's made out to seem? But also posits the question, how would a medieval demon lord deal with being thrown into a cyberpunk future? Not all, but most cyberpunk media I've consumed has characters fully aware of the world they're already in. Think Akira or Ghost in the Shell. It's very unique for the audience, but also the lead to be learning about this world and asking genuine questions. We also benefit greatly from having a fresh look at the world with Velito. It's clear one of the most powerful beings all in existence is then humbled so much in the first episode that it feels like we as an audience can connect on him, frankly, on a human level. While this isn't your typical isekai, the world that we explore here is familiar to those that have engaged within the cyberpunk setting. There is still some capacity to have a fresh look and idea that while we have technology, it's almost on a magical level. Even with the Demon Lord of the past world can adapt and thrive with the locals of this era. Isekais will keep coming out, and I hope we keep seeing more fresh looks at the idea. I'm also certain that the one-way enter into another world will be explored and developed. Heck, while .hack pioneered the idea of gaming as an isekai, it wasn't until Sword Art Online broke into the mainstream that we really started to see some innovation. And I'm certain that there are light novels and manga I'm unaware of that are pushing this genre to new heights. So what shows are allowing isekais to stay fresh for you, rather than the same slop that I've become the hero in another world? Alternatively, what's an isekai that's offered something you think more should pay attention to? Thank you so much for listening and or watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.